Hi, my name is Marius and today I'm going to mention 5 tips on how you can memorize more quicker, in particular for your studies. Let's get right into it. The tips are the following: active recalls, the Feynman technique, spaced repetition, flashcards, and to use mnemonics. And since I already summarized active recall quite well in previous videos, I'm just gonna make it quick. So it is basically a technique in which you actively ask yourself questions so that you not passively consume your study material by, for example, rereading, rewriting, and so on, but instead test yourself, kind of. Can you still remember your study material? That's basically active recall, quickly summarized. But let's move on to the Feynman technique, which is quite fascinating. Richard Feynman used to be a physicist who got quite famous based on his teaching skills. He also, by the way, just on the side, won a Nobel Prize for his contribution in the field of quantum electrodynamics. There's some famous words Richard Feynman said, which go like, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, you haven't understood it yourself. That technique is actually pretty simple. You're just gonna go ahead, study your study material as you're used to it, and then test yourself by explaining it to a different person, to a different group of people, to your stuffed animal, to yourself, to a wall, whatever, to someone, to something. And with that, you use the study technique that we just covered, active recall, because you need to test yourself, and because you can identify gaps in your study material quite easily with, for example, using ands and hms and question yourself quite a bit, then you know, okay, this sentence, this paragraph, this bit of my study material is something that I have not fully understood myself, so I can't fully explain it well. And explaining well means that you can break it down in simple terms. So you have a complex topic, break it down, and if the person opposite of you can still understand it, you did a great job. Now we'll cover spaced repetition. And if you combine active recall with spaced repetition, you're like God tier level type of student, and you can absolutely crush whatever your studies. You're gonna achieve something great. But spaced repetition for now is that you increase the intervals in which you study a certain topic based on the effectiveness of your prior study session. If you do well in a study session, you will not be revising the same study topic the next day, but in, for example, 2 days, in like 3 days, maybe even in weeks from now, and so on. You're just studying, you're just revising if you cannot remember it well. So you need to actively and frequently test yourself. Do I still remember my study session? There's something called the retrospective revision timetable, where you have all your study topics written down when you originally have studied it and when you need to revise it again. I actually created you a template for our retrospective revision timetable in like a full template bundle. The link of that can be found in the video description. It doesn't cost you anything to just check it out, so feel free to do that. Spaced repetition is based on the forgetting curve, so that you constantly will be reminded of your past study material. With that, you feed your long-term memory instead of your short-term memory. Hence, you can remember things for longer, which means it's a very good revision technique, yet it's not a good technique to use when you actually need to study something new, because it doesn't help you with understanding a topic. It's just purely for revision and retaining and memorization. It's also quite difficult to take in all your study content, since you have quite a lot and are being fed new study material every single day throughout your semester. So that can get quite overwhelming. If you combine flashcards now with the retrospective revision timetable, you're doing really well. In case you don't know what flashcards are, even though I think the majority of you do, it's basically that you have cards like this, and you have a front and a back side. And on the front side you write some form of question, a text with blank, an equation, and on the back side you write the answer to that question, the full text or just the blanks, an explanation or a proof for the equation. But those are just physical flashcards, which do have one disadvantage, and that would be that there are just quite a lot of them, because you need one flashcard for a singular fact, and that can get quite overwhelming. So my personal approach is to combine physical flashcards with digital flashcards. Now, digital flashcards are actually quite interesting. You might not have heard about them. You basically take a spreadsheet found in Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, where you then also are in a cloud, and so you have it on like all your devices and so on. You have your question again in one column and the answer to that question in another column. The answer, of course, needs to be hidden, so the font has the color of the background. And then you ask yourself the question, and if it aligns with the answer, great. Then you can color grade it in, for example, green, that you did it really well, in orange, that you can't retain it that well, or in red, because you didn't get the answer. So based on that, you know when to retain it next. You can create categories in like the lower left corner, they're like tabs, and you can have like one for biology, one for anatomy, one for medicine, physics, and so on. The problem with that, again, is that you don't have any reminders, which leads us to flashcard apps. For example, Anki flashcards, where you literally will be reminded of your flashcards, when to do certain ones, so that you just basically need to create the flashcard, don't need to have a retrospective revision timetable because it's already taken care of. Besides Anki flashcards, there would be Quizlet. I personally haven't tried it myself, but I just wanted to show you the possibility that there's just more than one app out there. Now, the next point is a topic that might be quite uncommon to use, but is actually really powerful. It's called mnemonics. It works that you choose a connecting topic and use the first letter and turn those facts into phrases, into pictures, something that you can easily remember. So you allocate, for example, the word hello with hydrogen, because HH starts with the same letter. You know, just an example. There would also be an example that actually is being used, for example, in physics, quite odd one, but you might remember it that way. The law for ideal gases, PV equals nRT, and you can remember those letters with the phrase, pure virgins never really tired. A bit of an odd one, but basically there are already mnemonics out there that you can use for medicine, for physics, and so on, and you just need to remember them and don't need to actually be creative yourself, so that could come in handy. Another more popular one would be My Very Educated Mother Just Served Us Noodles. Stands for the order in which planets rotate around our sun, like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And the cool part about it is that you now use, again, active recall, because you need to remember the phrase and what it stands for. It's super easy to use. You can actually make abbreviations instead of like writing long paragraphs on like some form of cheat sheet. It's super easy to remember. They have more fun because it's just slightly more engaging. And as I said, there are tons that already exist, so you can just Google and then find like a full list of them. And you can do that with pretty much anything, depending on how creative you actually are. And that being said, thank you very much for watching. Highly, truly, really appreciate you. There's a new study tip up here on how you can use summary sheets more effectively. Check it out, it's a banger. All the best to you, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.